In life, I feel like we always get this concept of yin and yang. And when you really think about yin and yang, it just comes down to balancing. White cannot live without black, right? In the yin and yang, it's white and black, right? It's two opposites, right? So what does that mean? It means that in our existence, good can't be without bad. Happiness can't be without sadness. And up can't be without down. You guys get what I'm saying. There can't be one thing without its opposite. It's just the law of the universe. I don't know if there's any concept in this universe where there is not a opposite outcome. I'd have to do a lot of thinking about that. But it all boils down to this conclusion that I've managed to come to through long nights of deep thought, talking to other individuals, reading certain texts. That's made me come to this conclusion that I talked about in my last training journal, which was that life is meant to be an experience of suffering. And I still firmly stand by that. But I have also come to the conclusion that with these bouts of suffering that we go through, and remember, I said this in the last video, when I say suffering, I don't mean pure heinous suffering, because people will hear suffering and they'll think, oh, like horrible traumatic events, right? And while that can be something that pushes people to do great things, just look at individuals that have done great things in their life or gone to great extents in certain fields. A lot of them have these backstories of pure hell. But what I'm saying is that in order for you to obtain those bouts of happiness, of pure joy, of excitement, the memories that live with you forever that you constantly try to chase, you must suffer, right? And I thought about this too. I just came off my break for school, right? And it was an amazing break, and I really cherished it, and I'm definitely going to remember it a lot. But why am I going to remember it a lot? Because leading up to it was probably the 8 most stressful weeks of my entire life, where not only was I battling myself in terms of working and school, I was battling myself on a spiritual level, figuring out why I was experiencing certain emotions and why I was so angry and upset throughout the previous months over things that have been building up over an extended period of time. And I finally came to the conclusion that in order to understand this whole thing, you must accept first that life is suffering, but also accept the good reality that with suffering comes happiness, and with happiness comes suffering, and it's just an up and down effect, right? And I realized that, yeah, my break was amazing because I came from 8 weeks of really intense, laborious activities on my mind, my body, my soul, all this stuff, right? So, yeah, that's the conclusion that I've came to. And another thing that also branches off from this is always chasing this feeling of nostalgia. I always found myself wondering, how do I get this feeling back that I used to have when this moment happened? How do I chase this feeling? And when you constantly chase this feeling of happiness, of pleasure that you once felt in the past, it becomes absolutely meaningless, because the pursuit of happiness is I think the number one biggest lie that a lot of people succumb to. What is the pursuit of happiness? It's the pursuit of pleasure. Okay, how do you get pleasure? Well, people who would say that the meaning of life is the pursuit of happiness would tell you to get pleasure, you do things that give you pleasure, right? So what do? They socialize, they have sex, they experiment with drugs, they do these things that, right, they are pleasurable, right? And within boundaries, they can be used in a healthy manner. But what are those boundaries? Okay, and I'm not saying drugs can be used in a healthy boundaries. I personally don't believe that. I know some people that might be watching this video might be for drugs. That's perfectly fine, but that's another topic for another day, okay? I'm not trying to have that discussion, but I'm saying that when you chase pleasure solely for the purpose of pleasure, it becomes absolutely meaningless. Because why are things pleasurable? They're pleasurable because you know the suffering that came before it, right? Just like I said, if the whole world was good and there was no bad in the world, good would not exist. It would just be the world, right? So we can apply the same concept to the meaning of chasing pleasure. You don't want to chase pleasure. You want to chase suffering. You want to chase misery. So what do? You do things like you lift, you study, you do these things that are difficult, that suck, that sometimes you just don't want to do them. But in the end, they lead to happiness, and it's true happiness. It's not artificial happiness that you're chasing for the sake of being happy. It's rewarded happiness, and that is the best kind of happiness that one can experience in this life, okay? So if you guys take one thing from this video, because I'm just trying to spread the message that I've come to the conclusion on, and it's not, I don't think truth necessarily is a concept that we can solely understand as mere humans, but I think that we can at least pursue the truth. And I can at least say that I think what I'm preaching right now is at least true for me. It might not be true for you, but for me, I'm asking you guys to go out and just suffer. Just do it. Just suffer. Do something that is something that you don't want to do. Be uncomfortable, because it will lead you to happiness. Now, I don't mean fuck yourself over. A lot of people hear this and they mistake it. I once knew an individual that said, oh, the struggle makes the man, and he dropped out of college. But in reality, he was giving himself the narrative, the struggle makes the man, and he dropped out of college because he didn't want to do the work of college, thus destroying his life, but making it easier in the moment because he did not have to go through the suffering that is college for him personally. He was having a hard time in college, right? So he ran away from his problem and claimed that it was because he was trying to struggle and make himself better. But in reality, if he wanted to struggle, he should have kept going and he would have came out into the light. So I'm not saying to fully fuck yourself over. I'm saying that you need to manage your suffering. So how do you do that? How do you manage suffering? You schedule your time. You sleep well. You eat good food. You exercise. You practice balance. That's all it is. You practice balance in your life. And when you practice balance, only good things can happen to you. Most every bad thing in life is a imbalance. It's one thing is too much, and it's a variable that's outweighing other variables in life, and it's something that you need to fix. Anyway, guys, I hope that this made sense. If it didn't, I'm sorry. Leave a comment down below if I'm making sense. Sometimes I don't know if I understand, if I explain these things well, or if I'm just rambling like a fucking psycho. But if you guys understand what I'm saying, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. More than anything, I just want to have a discussion with you guys. I don't care about likes or subscribing. I don't give a shit. I just want to have a discussion with you guys. I want to come to an understanding together. So I hope you all have a great week, and go out there and train.